Welcome back to the channel. Let's explore together. Today we're checking out 15th Bend featuring Sailor Your Love, Crutches. This is a small group that was sent to me by someone who believes in this group. If you want to send me stuff, you could check the links in the description for ways to do so. With smaller groups, I tend to try to have my criticisms tailored to the fact that they're a smaller group, but maybe these guys will be awesome and I'll just vibe and I won't have criticisms. That's not likely. I'm a critical critic. You should hear me critique my own music. It gets pretty intense. Let's get into this though. See what we got. No idea the genre. It just says a powerful and hard-hitting song about people struggling with addiction, devastation, and helplessness felt by their loved ones. That's a wide net to cast. It concerns me of how melodramatic this song's going to be and how self-important it might be, something that indie artists fall into a lot, of adding more self-importance to their songs than is possibly earned. But we'll see. We'll see how these lyrics go and how the song sounds. Telling you right now, that font choice was rough. The graphic design needs some help. At least the guitar's sounding nicer than that graphic design was. Oh, we got an AI music video. All right.
So glad you found your crutch to lean on while I'm left stumbling among the mess. I tell myself you mean no harm to those around you, but here I sit, heartbroken, torn to shreds. Oh, why am I not enough? Why won't you put me first? Took a bottle to the heart, I'd prefer a knife to stop this hurt. Let me out of my misery. Call and send the hearse, because watching hopelessly while you choose death's not what life's worth.
So we're definitely trying to be giant with this song. We'll see where it's about to go, but for being a minute in, I want the sound space to be more full. And if it's not going to be more full, we need to be EQing it differently. Because right now, everything's very tinny and mid-rangey. There's not a whole lot... there's not a lot of interesting things going on in the high ends. Like even when the little cymbals or hi-hats came in, it didn't really sparkle. And there's nothing going on in the lows. So it's almost like they really wanted to avoid a muddy sound when they were EQing it, and they overcompensated. This often happens with headphone mixes too, if studio monitors weren't used and it was all like on a high frequency headphone. It's the mix is off for what they're doing. For the sound that's being made, it's not a full sound. And even if we get a drum kit or something else that hits harder, or a bass line that comes in, it's not going to fix the fact that the vocals and the main melody instruments are just in this weird space where it just doesn't sound clean, but not intentionally unclean. So there's a distraction in my ear on how this is engineered from a sound perspective. I don't know the breadth of experience of audio engineering those working on this project have, or what equipment they're using, but it is notably lo-fi, but not in the intentional way, which happens a lot with indie artists. The concept, the framework of the song is nice. The instrumentation's a little odd, but odd and niche is fine. You know, the change of the BPM dynamic when you had that little back and forth kind of synth sort of kick pad, whatever you want to call it, come in was cool. So there's things here working. I'm not sold on the lyrics yet. They're a little melodramatic for my taste currently, but I'm going to see where we go with them.
If I could turn back time, would you choose something else?
And that was supposed to be our big drop, but that drum came in like a wet blanket. Not a wet blanket, a flimsy paper bag or something. I don't know. That drum did not come in hard. And again, we're still lacking a lot of bass tones. And where the drum sits in the mix is kind of in the center, which is odd. The kick drum should be in the center, but like the drum should be spaced out, like digital or not. They should be occupying the panned channels. So a lot of my issue with this song is coming down to the technicalities of it, really distracting me from listening to what the song's trying to say.
Not darkness or suppression, not a soul gone the hand you're dealt. I hope you'd mean your words, all the promises you'd make. You'd finally admit your wrongs, not blame me for your mistakes. Maybe you'd see my side, or hear what I've got to say. Or would you pour yourself another glass, make your problems go away? They won't go away.
I didn't know we were going back to 1985 randomly. That was an odd shift into that dramatic, screechy rock of the 80s. We had the Tomville, but the whole song hadn't really built to that. We weren't in that niche, and I'm cool with genre switches, but there has to be a. I feel like I need to have a transition that makes more sense than that. The guitar works nice. The synth drum throughout that whole thing, that little back and forth ping pongy sound was louder than the entire drum kit. And the drum kit was in the center channel, and that synth was back and forth. That just seems so backwards. The drum should have been up, and the drum should have been panned out, and that synth, you could still pan it out just like more narrow. When you're talking sound, you have a sphere of space you're working with. And the more you can utilize that sphere and put things where they make sense to be, think about it like you're on a stage. And where is the drum sound going to come from? Where's the guitar going to be? Where are the singers going to be? And if you stage your studio recorded song the way you would put it on a stage, it kind of helps drive putting things where they make sense and letting things breathe, and every sound having its own spot without having to just be louder or quieter than the other sound. If it has its own spot, it gets to be there, and you don't have as much tinny sounds or flat, muddy sounds and all that nonsense. The lyrics, the build, I use the word melodrama for when you're saying something like dramatic, but you're not really being that poetic about it. I think you could touch really dramatic things if you're a little more nuanced and poetic with it. But when you're just saying it flat out, you get that country music lyric vibe where it's really direct. Some people like that, so I'm not going to say it's wrong to do that, but I don't personally care for when lyrics are this heavy-handed. You know, if you take another drink, like we're being really, really direct. And I feel like that fits better for either quick limericks or lighter songs, or songs that are meant to be really easily digestible. But when it's a song that's trying to like make a statement and say something big and not just be catchy or poppy or fun, then I think the lyrics need to be either more subtle or more poetic for me. Again, these drums are just so quiet, like whatever, and they sound like this kit switches digital as well. I don't know why the drums are just so underneath everything, and this guitar is so loud. I like the guitar. I think the drums are kind of fine aside from that goofy, cliched tom fill, but why are they where they are? It doesn't feel intentional, right? The mix just doesn't feel intentional. It feels haphazard. That guitar is so nice, though. The guitar and the singing's the highlight of all of this. So I don't know the history of this group. I don't know if it's like a guitarist who sings or a singer and a guitarist. I know it's featuring someone. I'm guessing the feature is the vocalist, and 15th Bend is probably the guitarist based on the channel logo. And so you got a strong guitar, you got a pretty strong vocal, but everything else around it, the lyrics, the compositioning of the song, the engineering, all of that just kind of drags the rest of it down. Yeah, there's definitely that late 70s, mid 80s vibe right here, this breakdown. Which just seems random in the rest of the song, but let's get it. Honestly, I think if everything was mixed more intentionally, this whole switch might have actually worked. Like, conceptually, the more I think about it, the more this probably works as a dramatic moment. It's just how everything was engineered sonically, just kind of took a dump on that concept. And then the lyrics, again, that's more of a preference thing for me, but I do think they're pretty weak considering what we're trying to talk about here.
If I could turn back time, would you choose something else? Or darkness and suppression, soaking on the hand you're dealt? You'll never meet your words, all the promises you'll break. You'll never admit your wrongs, I'm to blame for your mistakes.
Like, see, that this part I think is like the chorus, because I feel like we've heard it before. But you have something going, and then it just kind of switches back to the really basic stuff. You know, you'll never admit your wrongs, you'll blame me for your mistakes. But we started off somewhere that was like a little more poetic, you know, turn back time, would you do the same thing? Okay, I'm kind of following it. But then we go right back to the safety net of being super blunt. And so it just kind of makes the lyrics for me just feel pretty shallow and weightless. Like if I sing a song that says I'm depressed and feeling suicidal, that's a big topic but said in a weightless way. And that's kind of where I'm sitting on this song.
You'll never see my side or hear what I've got to say.
All right, you'll never see my side or hear what I've got to say. There's way better ways to say that rather than literally just saying it, especially if you're going to be this dramatic. If you want to just say something, you know, be less dramatic.
Just pour yourself another glass. You've pushed everyone away.
All right, so that was 15th Bend, Crutches. I think there's a lot to build off of with that. Mainly, I've already said it, mainly the guitar and vocals have a decent potential to them. I think the songwriting from a lyrical perspective needs some work. Structurally, the song I think makes sense, but I would really need to hear it in the hands of more deliberate audio engineering to know for sure. But I didn't hate it. I've heard things that I disliked a lot more from professional artists that were produced properly, right? Producing something well doesn't magically make it good. Just like there are things that are produced poorly that still sound good. Like it's still great. It's just, oh man, I wish this was produced better. This is somewhere in between. It's in that no man's land where even if it's produced well, I don't think I'm sitting that you're sitting like you're sitting, whatever, on like this insane like masterful song, even if it was produced perfectly. But I think it's a passable and okay song produced well. Maybe if you switched up the lyrics and get rid of, now that I'm just seeing this description, Phil Collins-esque drum roll is what they called it. Maybe if you polish that kind of stuff up, maybe. But I don't know. I didn't hate it. Clearly didn't love it. I think it's there, and there's definitely enough here to keep grinding away and making more songs. But that's my opinion. It doesn't matter. I'm just some guy. And until next time, I'll see you later.